Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Skerritt.
I'd rather he stay out here. So, thank you. It's Alien himself, who is really Viper and one hell of a fisherman in the rivers of Montana. I'm just going to really quickly thank you for coming here and thank you for appreciating the film. But I have to say, what I have found recently that to you who haven't seen this, it is apparently perhaps the most viewed film ever. So aren't you embarrassed that you can't go into that number? And it, for me, has been, all in all, I'm a very lucky son of a bitch, man. So, we can talk later on if you, for you, those of you who can stay after 8 o'clock. If your mom doesn't want you home in a hurry, and you shouldn't be here in the first place watching a film like that. So thank you very much for being here. I am pleased and honored really very much to have you lead me out here. And for all of you to be here. I'm loving this city, Chicago. I always have, so enjoy it.
Mr. Tom Skerritt.
Thank you. It took me 5 minutes to write it. I've heard I think that song from, oh God, what was it? When I think that thing was written in half an hour. Look at it.
You haven't aged a day.
Still singing it.
Since then. I'm curious, just how was this film pitched to you, because you were one of the first people, I think, to come on board, right? How did Ridley Scott or whoever, Dan O'Bannon or whoever pitched you this story idea? What do you remember about that initial pitch that kind of hooked you?
Unforgettable to not talk about it, not remember it. I was doing another film somewhere in the country, and I got this script that said Alien, and all I knew was that it was budgeted at $2 million at 20th Century Fox, and they had no director, nobody involved, and I wasn't able to read it really effectively knowing that. I thought it was a solid script because I'm a writer myself, so I can evaluate these things as I go along, but this was questionable, $2 million, that it might need to have a director like Ed Wood. So I said, I don't know, I can't give you an answer right now. Meanwhile, I had seen the film called The Duelist that was directed by an English director. It was his first film, and his name was Ridley Scott, and I remembered it because that I thought was a masterpiece visually, and I wanted to remember that director's name. And so the script came along, $2 million, no director, and I don't know if I want to do this, and I get a call a few weeks later, and they said the film has been kicked up to $10 million, and Ridley Scott, an Englishman on his second try as a filmmaker, had made it. And no question, no negotiation. It just was, that is the difference. A solid screenplay that is just a basically sound piece of storytelling, and a woman being the hero in the end. All of that really, I love that. And I learned how to behave with women and prize them much more by doing Turning Point just prior to that. I don't mean, again, no, I'm going beyond your question, but I said these things are all a buildup of male charisma, or whatever it is, you know. But learn how to respect women in ballet in a way that I turn that on. How's that? Here, no? Yeah. Thank you. Yes, it's green. Okay, you're good. So there was something about women in ballet that I just prized, the strength, the focus, the sacrifice very early on in their life to do this piece of mobile art, not for a lot of money, and give their youth to something like that. To me, that was, the grace of that was moved me quite a bit, enough that I enjoyed the idea of a woman being the hero of that. That was the one thing. That was the one thing that really stayed with me about that. I really liked that. It's a little kinky. That unanticipated thing. And that was how I saw it, you know, until they said that it's going to be $10 million and Ridley Scott's going to direct it, and away I went.
So when you were working with Ridley Scott, I mean, before this, you had worked with, like, you know, directors like Robert Altman and Hal Ashby, and you've also worked with, like, really great directors like Cronenberg and Robert Zemeckis. I was just curious, with Ridley Scott, I mean, with all those directors, is there like some sort of common thing that they have that helps you as an actor, working with them, that they all kind of share as being great directors, or are they all just, you know, complete individuals?
Well, they're all complete individuals, but they're going from their own frame of reference, and I talk a lot about frame of reference. If you have a narrow frame of reference, you ain't going to get much done in life, in particular, but generally speaking, not as a creator. You've got to have a frame of reference that just takes you off in different directions. And you've got to be able to have the guts to follow the direction. And it's that thing of, these guys had that sense of the risk of possibilities in exercising the audacity of your imagination. They didn't necessarily direct actors, most of these guys. Ridley, the only thing he said to the actors once was when he was eyeballing, he was the camera operator for this. And that was, everywhere he went, he kept throwing me little tidbits. I felt like the puppy following the guy throwing me little pieces of garlic or something as he went along and saying, I'm doing this for that, and I kept looking through the lens and saying, so I'm learning I didn't know that he was such a master. You can't ever measure that degree except by time. And the same thing with Altman, same way with Hal Ashby, some other directors. You just don't know until time goes by. So Van Gogh, he wasn't really successful at all until Kirk Douglas made a movie about it. And his prices of the film, of his paintings, is now about $50 million for one film. You just never know where these things are going, but you have a feeling that you're with something special, and that's all you can do about that. Predicting what's going to happen in the future with it, how are you going to do that? Unless you're already in the future. But then you learn how to tell what the future is going to be, given by how many times that instinct that you had at the time, which I had with Altman, which you had to Hal Ashby and Ridley Scott in particular, and Tony Scott, when I knew he was going to do Top Gun, I knew I was going to have to do that movie. So that one I worked on trying to get that role. Well, it's just all of us really have to be willing to take the risk of possibilities. And I've seen myself taking the risk with a director who doesn't know when to tell me what to do, or give me something, some guidance, and I look at that as a terrible performance. It's my own evaluation, and I felt that over and over again. I'm most haunted by how bad I can be.
And I'm curious what you think of that scene. What do you think of it being cut, and what do you think of it being put back in?
You're talking about the eggshell eating the egg?
Right. Yeah.
The egghead. Well, I remember having a conversation with him because I must have been a bore for him. I was forever asking, why are you using that lens, and explain it. And then I'd say, why in the structure of this piece? I asked him obscure questions, one of which is, how do we bridge this conceptualization thing of each beginning, at the beginning of the birth, and how is that inseminated? What's that process? The process, as we saw it, is fertilizing this embryo, but it doesn't really track through. And I'm thinking like this. This is Skerritt. Yeah, this is just, I'm gonna scare them so much they won't know a damn thing. that's the way he went about it. But in that one scene, I thought, well, isn't that she's gonna be running out. We're gonna, I was gonna say, she's running after a cat. We know this thing is gonna blow up in so many seconds. Get her off that ship! And she stops and starts having a conversation with this guy being eaten by a snake. And he's saying, kill me! What? And she zaps him and then goes and looks for the cat again. Am I right? Yeah.
But it was a very cute cat, though.
It was a sweet cat. We appreciate that she rescued the cat and brought it back. But the interesting thing is that it didn't dawn on me that the cat would be fertilized. Right. It was the only thing that we knew, most likely, and all the living, there had to be a living system, organism of some kind for that thing, for that process to happen. So anyway, pace is really where it really came down to. And he said, his response to my questioning him, he says, well, I'm paid to shoot it. And he was ahead of schedule, and he was bringing it under budget, so he figured he had a little latitude. And I understood that as a director. Yeah, you do. Having directed a few things where I'm not under schedule, under budget, Alvin taught me that, was you just futz around a little bit. And they may say, oh, you're burning too much footage, it's costing us $100,000 more, but I was saving you $150,000, so you said, that argument transpires, so it gets really petty, but. Well, I've been chatting last way. I write so I don't say anything during the day, so here I am shooting my mouth off about it. And he said, what question you got? No, I don't have 12 children. I've got 10 altogether with grandkids.
Well, one of the things that's great about the movie, and because I was watching it again a few days ago, is just how it even though it doesn't like quite advertise it as such. I mean, it completely subverts like every possible genre expectation that one could have had for a film of this sort. Not just in 1979, but I mean, today even. I mean, beyond Sigourney Weaver, turning out to be the hero of the thing. For example, we expect early on, that from right as the movie starts, that your character is going to be like the big hero type. I mean, good God, your name is Dallas. You can't get more manlier of a name than Dallas and all that. And then, it's about 70 minutes in, you're gone. We don't even see you like we get like the big jump cut, but we don't actually see you die. So we are all expecting, okay, you're gonna come out at the end and you're gonna blow the alien up, and then you're gonna like, give Sigourney Weaver a big old smooch and fly back to Earth. And no, you're dead. You're gone. Well, until the director's cut. But beyond that, I mean, it just plays with it all the way through. I mean, because there's certainly, we were talking about this earlier, that there are certain like rhythms that in a certain genre rhythms that you kind of like get used to, and this movie just basically messes with all of those things, so you can never like really get you can never really settle into it. You can never really get sort of easy with it. So that's why even though you may have seen it like a dozen times over the years, it can still scare the living shit out of you after a while.
And it's what you don't see.
Right.
That happened, the first time I really saw that when I was a kid was a film called The Thing. A long time ago. And one thing I've learned about writing is just suggest things and don't tell, and you gotta be engaged by what you don't know, what you haven't been told. And that's really what happened with The Thing and with Alien. We don't see it enough. And he made sure he used Texas Chainsaw Massacre as his inspiration for that. He never saw the killer, so why not do it with Alien? Apart from he being asked, what do you intend to do with this film, with the audience, in making this film? He said, I just want to scare the shit out of them. That was his deep motivation.
We're going to ask a couple more questions. We have a microphone over here. If anyone can start lining up. Also, I forgot to bring it up here, but I think we have a prize for the person we deem having the best question. So make it more of a question than a comment.
And nothing about the budget or the improv.
That will not be the best question. But I did want to ask you, a couple years ago, we played a film here called Lucky that you had a part in, and it was the centerpiece of that film was Harry Dean Stanton, who we work with here, the late great. And I'm just wondering if you could give us your best Harry Dean Stanton story or observation about just knowing him all those years and what a great actor he was.
There's some illusion that we all get chummy and that we go away and live happily ever after together. That used to happen in the old days in Hollywood when everybody lived in Hollywood. We don't live, I've been up in Seattle for 30 years. Redford hated to be in Los Angeles, so he lived in various places. Did keep a house somewhere in LA, but we rarely went. So you just don't meet up again. Or you have your own life and you gotta mow your own lawn, wherever you are. And you gotta take out your own garbage, wherever you are. So that becomes, your neighborhood, wherever you live, becomes those people you get involved with. And you just fall out of touch with Harry Dean Stanton. I didn't see him since then. So all those years later, almost 40 years later, they say, Harry, I'd like you to do this film, and I'd love to see Harry, because he's one of the most pure actors. Sociably, he's not really that available. Man, when he gets acting, I've never seen anybody do what he does. At that age, 91, do you remember those lines the way he does? I'm having trouble right now. What I just said, what I said. I'm buying it.
I have to ask, the subsequent like Alien movies and all that, did you in any way follow any of them? And we're not counting all that Alien Predator crap. If you ever follow it, like watch any of them, like what your thoughts were on those, you have? Of the various sequels, have you?
No, I haven't.
I
I thought we just made it with the first one, and everything else. And everything else is that too with most franchises, they're just continuing what you just saw in with different actors. In a way, it's about scaring the hell out of people. I don't like that part of it. I don't mean to get into this morality thing here, but damn it, I'm just tired of of the films, we don't go to the films much. Fortunately, we get them for the Academy Award. We can view them at home. Even at that, I don't have much time to watch all the films. But these films that are coming out are aggressive and hostile and angry. And I can't be convinced that that does not some way influence the demographic that they make for each other. 3 or 4 generations later, they're doing the same, scare the hell out of them, make them feel aggressive and angry, and it's cool. And if that doesn't affect people shooting people in the schools, if that doesn't affect people from being hostile and angry with other people on the streets, I'm sorry. It's the most influential of all movies. We can do better than that.
All right, who's that?
Can I add something? She's a little nervous. I just want to thank you for being just as sexy as a woman or anybody in here, don't give a crap, as Top Gun and Alien, as you are right now to me. So, for that, and I'm not kidding. I'm waiting for you outside.
Tom?
She said you're very sexy.
Tom?
Says you're as sexy as ever.
Waiting for you outside.
Sounds like a threat. Have her
Thank you.
Someone's not getting a Blu-ray.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, you're not getting the Blu-ray. Okay, yes.
Well, I have to agree with her, but anyways. You were saying... Hi. Good. Hi, Tom. You were talking earlier about working with Ridley's brother, Tony Scott, and I was wondering what kind of differences did you notice between the brothers, and if you had any preference or just any quirks that you picked up on between Tony and Ridley?
Well, I learned they're both very much alike. They were. They worked together as graphics illustrators initially, and then they had their own advertising company where they both learned how to shoot what we finally saw, but they're very close in terms of their approach to it. I learned most of that from Ridley, because we were working in a way that I could follow him around on stage. It was less so with Tony because they were in so many locations. I couldn't observe enough, certainly not all I would love to have been able to observe with Tony. But he was very giving and very, he left a little easier than Ridley. Ridley was very straight, very focused always doing. Tony had a little more of a sense of humor about it, but I couldn't say one is any better than the other based on those 2 films. They're both classics of their own right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hi. So as Peter referred to in his excellent introduction, there's been a lot of academic work about the Alien movies and a lot of PhD theses about them. Some of them titled, I just did a quick Google search, Son of a Bitch, Feminism, Humanism, and Science and Alien, Reimagining the Gargoyle, Psychoanalytic Notes on Alien, Evolution and the New Frontier in Alien and Aliens, Patriarchal Co-optation of the Feminine Archetype, and so on. So I'm wondering, when you're filming the movie, do you think, there's a lot of metaphorical grist for the mill here, there's a lot going on, or do you just think, this is a scary-ass movie filmed in space, it smells like hell, and the chest bursts are seen, and do you think more about the potential metaphorical depths of it, or do you just focus on what's going on in front of you there?
Because I learned from Hal Ashby and Bob Altman before all of this, it's always about instinct. It's all oil trust. It's not an intellectual process. You can't intellectualize this stuff. You can't preconceive it. If you preconceive it, you're overthinking it. If you're overthinking it, it's just not going to have that wide parameter of elasticity that happens when it's raining on a day that you want full sun. you have to accommodate what's going on in front of you every day. So it's hard for me to really respond to the question, mainly because it's an intellectual exercise, and I don't feel that way when we're doing it. I just feel I have to position myself not as the lead in this, because I have the first name up there. I'm not going to be concerned about being a movie star at all. I'm an actor in a film who's hired, and it's a painting. This guy's a painter, particularly Ridley and Tony. So my responsibility, as far as I'm concerned, as an actor, now I'm going to get different answers from people, is to being a director and writer myself, is to position myself in the best composition that I think the director wants. And it's not an analytical thing. You just got to know what to do when there's any questions being asked in silence. That you just simply have to trust your instincts, and that's true of life. Take the risk of possibilities, push the limits of your imagination. Just go at it. That's all I know. That's all I ever will know, right up to the last day I'm breathing. So answering these questions that are intellectual are not questions I can really answer effectively. There's no black and white about this. This is just knowing in some way, instinctively, that you're in a special situation and you do the best work you possibly can, given the time that you have to do it. That's the best I can offer it.
Actually, I was going to ask, if you are a fan of the many musings on Alien and its other meanings, there's a documentary that was played at Sundance called Memory. I don't know when it's coming out, but and Tom has a new interview with Tom in it about the chest burster scene in particular, but it's not a making of, it's more just like digging into all the influences that went into the screenplay, and also, some of Ridley's visual references as well, and it's phenomenal, and go see it when it opens, wherever else. It might open here, who knows? Okay, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say before my question that this is actually the first time I've got to see like the full film, and you are phenomenal at this. Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you very much.
But the reason why I got to see this is the legacy of this movie. I never got to see it before, but I've heard this is one of the great sci-fi movies of all time. And when you finally got to see this film, it was released, did you expect it to become this mega phenomenal icon of sci-fi? Or do you think it would just be like a summer blockbuster ordeal?
No, I'm sorry. I thought I made myself clear that was definitely something I felt I had to do for that reason. You just know these things instinctively. And I think in the second week, I think I was talking to Harry, and probably not because he doesn't have much to say. But one of the actors, he says, what do you think about this film? I said, we're making a classic. He says, yeah, I feel that way too. So you feel it because you feel the homogeneity of the whole thing. The cast is humming together. The director is handling the crew well. So it becomes a homogeneous thing. And this is what happened with from whatever the name, MASH, and it happened with Turning Point. And every film I've done, there are no quarrels. I get those questions, did the girls get along and Steel Magnolias? Nobody, if a film is successful, it's because largely these days anyway, the last 40, 50 years that I've been doing it, it's based on the behavior of us who are in charge. And as far as I'm concerned, we're all part of the painting. We're all on the canvas, audience included. But particularly since you guys can't tell us what to do, we got to do something that makes you feel engaged personally. What would you do in these circumstances? I don't know. You get scared. And you do stupid things, like go through tunnels with a match.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Skerritt. I think a lot of people come back and rewatch this movie for a lot of reasons. Me personally, I really like hanging out with the cast each time and the crew. And my question is, obviously, Ridley has to build that environment for the cast. And I was curious as to how much time Ridley allowed the whole cast to hang out and develop a camaraderie, to be a crew before, the first day of shooting.
That's a pretty good question, but he was busy all the time. And to the extent that he's clearly a visual director. But we all gathered in on a big table in his office at Shepperton Studios, ostensibly to read this through from beginning to end. And we started at page 1. He reads out the directions. And we read a little bit into this thing. He says, yeah, and on that one, this thing is going to come down and disappear. Okay, go on. Oh, and one other thing. So he's explaining the whole thing that he sees because it's going on in his head. He's got to verbalize it because in some way he's able to visualize it and he's got to talk about it. And then the assistant director comes in and says, Ridley, we got a problem on this day with something or other. Okay, guys, sorry, I gotta go. He left and we were sitting around there with these marvelous other actors. And I'm feeling like I'm charmed to be able to work with these guys. But I realized, okay, I'm Captain Dallas. I'm whatever. So I got to take a little leadership here. And I said, guys, this is all on our shoulders. We're going to have to work it out ourselves. And that's fine. The only direction we got from him, because he was doing everything, lighting it, shooting it, and everything, making up things as he's going along, which would delay us shoot for a whole day. And I don't remember that. The one thing he directed was the first wake-up scene, the breakfast, if you recall. He did it with a master. We do it, he's looking through the camera, he comes back from the camera and he goes, interesting.
That's it. Thank you so much.
I was just wondering what your favorite movie is and why.
You mean generally speaking, or pardon me?
Both.
Well, I was an English major at UCLA who saw Citizen Kane. And I said, I want to write and direct that film. I want to go to that level. So my whole thinking about the business was that level. So I thought if I was going to write a screenplay, learn how to write a screenplay, I had to know what it was to act. And so I did some theater. I happened to be seen acting. Hired to be in a little down and indie film. Not that you all ask for this, but it's so interesting. I still want to be a writer-director. I'm asked to act in a movie after being seen in a couple of plays. And the film has 4 other actors. One is Robert Redford, another is Sidney Pollack. I meet a television director that lives in the neighborhood. I'm talking with him. He says, I'm directing a TV show if you want to come over and watch. And I met him with, he's a very interesting cat. And I mentor with this guy over a 4 or 5 year period. My story. He calls me up one day and said, I got a film to direct, and I'd like you to act in it. And it's called MASH. So I figured 2 things. One, it's an okay script. And two, I'm getting my chance to be on a big Hollywood set with a lot of people and see because you got to be able to handle everybody. Everybody's got to get along. No movie star crap. You just get in there and make everybody feel like they're a part of the movie, which is what he did. The crew, the extras were all improvisational people who had the skills for that. And I'd go back, he had 3 cameras going, microphones everywhere. I knew what he would be doing, and I knew what he was doing because of this mentoring previously to this. I know it's a long story, but it's so interesting to me in retrospect to look back and see this guy is the reason that I'm in the business at all. Maybe I would have, done acting or directing and acting, but this is what came to me. Trying to learn from guys who make great movies ain't a bad thing. It can only add to my humanity and to that which I bring that humanity, which is the acting thing. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
We got time for a couple more. Go ahead. First of all, it's an honor and a privilege to meet you. One of the things that's always mystified me as a film lover, especially in the world of like science fiction films, is the incredibly like ornate set pieces, especially in an age where so many films focus so much on CGI and doing it like artificially. Back then, when you were working on Alien and you got to see these set pieces in person, what did you feel like? What did you like feel?
Walking on those sets?
Yeah, walking on those sets
They were
for the
pretty
first
creepy.
time.
And there was a reason for that. But the CGI and all that special effects stuff, it never has a wrinkle in it. And there's something about great movies that you have to have the sense of timing that being a human offers. You may somehow or another forget right in the middle of a sentence what your line was, and you figure back and say, like Brando, you do a Brando. Yeah, I was there once. I'm thinking, what was it? Yeah, Toledo is not the place you want to be. So there's that kind of thing that really makes it interesting because you're wondering, is this person has he or she forgotten the line? Man, she really played it that nice. It just worked. And it's really the gift of the real actors is that sense of, how do I say this in a nice way so they're not going to be offended? The other actors in the piece. It's just the stuff that's there instinctively. I keep saying this thing of risk and possibilities that forms the imagination and broadens the frame of reference over and over again. Everything seems to get back to your frame of reference. And that's the place you work from. It informs your intelligence. Your intelligence informs your instincts, which drive your impulse to do whatever you do creatively. I don't know any other way to say it. It's the gifts you're given of the bad and good of life. And it's how do you use them, because that's what you are. I'm a blue-collar kid off the streets of Detroit. I'll never be anything different than that. I got lucky.
Thank you very much.
I think we only have time for 2 more questions because we got to get another big movie in here after this. Go ahead.
What was it like to work in the presence of H.R. Giger?
I tell you, one interesting cat. He receives, we smoked some dope together. He smoked a lot of it. And so did Harry Dean from the minute we were heading out. He was just getting that back seat with Sigourney, and the two of them would be driven out to the location, and he just sits there. Harry Dean. I hit the scene. Whatever he'd do, he'd just sing a little song, and it drove her nuts. Since she didn't smoke that kind of stuff. So, it's just, I don't know how to answer questions like this. I mean, it sounds like there's an intelligent tracking. Every time people ask certain questions, it tells like we have an intelligent discipline approach ahead of time, which some directors do, and some actors do, and some writers do. I don't know how to do that. I don't, you know, if you don't have a sense of a moment on stage, which you learn on stage, is the moment to hold your audience for a moment, more than you did last night. How long can I hold it? You know, and you just know that there are different nights, given the audience, whether they laugh or not, you play it that way. So a lot of what I learned as an actor was really on theater, which is better written ordinarily and more interesting, and it causes me to prod a little bit more in my authenticity, what I am. And in film, it's not the same. You have shared scenes that are done out of whack, you know. The end of the movie may have shot on the third day of the shoot, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't have that continuity that stage acting has. That's where the real sense of all this stuff happens, when you do begin to analytically approach the work from night to night. After you've done all your spontaneity, you got to get to the intelligence, which has been informed by the spontaneity, to try to replicate that thing again and again, but in a different way. It's the doorknob that opens the door, night after night. And sometimes it opens to a full room, and sometimes it's only half. But film is pretty much, the set's there, you walk into it, and the way he did it, it froze you. Because it was so enormous and so dark and so threatening. Even though you knew it was fake, but it was a good fake. Good right, a good left, right jab. Knocked me on my ass.
Thank you.
All right, last question. Sorry, guys. We gotta flip it up. Skerritt, thank you very much for being here for all the Masses of Aliens fans. But I guess I really love your way that you construct a character. You inject a lot of humanity into it from your frame of reference, and especially with Dallas. Seeing it now, I'm just wondering how you felt in those moments, knowing Dallas is an upstanding good dude. He wants to do the right thing, but has to follow orders from the company, and this sort of metaphor of that, making those flawed choices to do what he feels is right. And also, in addition to that, while injecting that humanity, how cramped was that egg that you had to sit in for that long?
long enough for me to say, "Get me the hell out of here!" It was uncomfortable. You know, the reality is always around us. It's how we deal with the reality. And I know movies are made up of a lot of fake, but there's a lot of reality that goes into that fake, you know. And, I just, I don't know how to answer that question. All I know is that all the time I felt honored and privileged that I was able to work with those people and with this director. It wasn't about me, it was about the whole thing. It was about funny things that happen offset, like seeing the alien creatures. I mean, the memories I have are not so much on set as the stuff that goes on around them. And I remember seeing that. I told the story earlier today because it's pretty funny. Most of it, maybe it's my silly Irishness, but coming out, I was going to work in the afternoon. I came out just as they were breaking for lunch. They opened the big doors in that huge Shepperton stage. And out comes the crew. They're all going to lunch, and out comes this lovely Nigerian guy who I'd met who was in England to study aeronautical engineering. They met at a bar, apparently. He's wearing the thing down, heads off, and the rest of the outfit, the tail, and bright blue tennis shoes, tennis shoes, really bright. But yellow markers on them or something like that. And the guy that was holding the tail was somewhat flamboyantly carrying it with his white scarf being blown off to lunch. So that was priceless, and I wish I had an iPhone in those days. I would be retired. Selling that photograph. So, anyway, it's that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Can I just throw one real quick thing? I'm waiting at one afternoon for us to go back to work, and there's another actor who's very much of a method school, which I'm kind of that way. But this guy was getting a little, he was hostile and behaved that way in front of the crew, saying, "Come on, you guys, you Englishmen, you don't say anything, you're too straight, you hang your hands over your ass like you got something to hide. Come on!" And yelling at them like this, and I'm right behind these two guys that are looking this way, two English crew members. And he gets himself all wound up so he can go into the scene angry. I understand that. The one Englishman, his profile turns to this guy over here and he says, "Isn't it grand being English?"
Tom Skerritt, thank you so much for coming this